Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Java Chat. Coffee with Mike here, and today I get to sit with this gentleman on my what's my left, your right, I think, or your left, my right, somewhere in there. Glad you guys could all come back and join us. Please welcome to the show, Tristan Pelloux. Thank you, Tristan, for coming and hanging out for a little while.
Thanks for having me.
It's interesting, with Tristan and I connected, and he's all the way in Spain, and I'm all the way in Las Vegas. So if you guys notice a slight little delay, that's what that comes from. But I think you're at about 5:30 your time already.
Yeah. I think we have a slight time difference. You're starting your day. I'm slowly finishing mine.
Yeah, I have a business partner in the Philippines, so he's about finishing, I think, his next day, or he's more than halfway through it, or something like that. These time zones are crazy. Anyway, give us an idea, Tristan, where you are, who you are, where you're from, what do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm, as you say, I'm in Spain. I'm in Barcelona. I'm a Frenchman. I studied in France and in the Netherlands. I studied business, went to business school, studied economics as well. And just after that, I moved to London, where I was for almost 6 years. Did a bunch of stuff there, actually most of the time in the same company, but I worked in corporate finance, corporate strategy. So most of that time at a bank called Virgin Money. It's a Virgin group, the guy that went to space.
Yeah.
And so yeah, during my time there, I worked on a few big projects, smaller projects. My last thing there was to develop strategic partnerships with fintech startups and big technology companies to try to transform financial services. Been quite passionate about innovation in finance and financial services for quite a while. So last year, kind of in the middle of the pandemic, I decided to move out of London, move to Barcelona, and I started doing a couple of things. Well, something I had started in January, actually, which is to manage a small blog called Fintech Review, where I write articles, I interview people, I welcome guest posts as well, everything and anything about fintech. And when I don't do that, I'm a consultant, strategy consultant. So I advise mostly fintech startups, and I'm also working on my own fintech startup. So as you can see, I keep busy. I don't like to be bored, so I do a lot of things.
I don't think anybody likes to be bored. I know I don't like to be bored. Of course, fintech is a very interesting realm. Not everybody understands that. And I don't think I've actually had anybody dig into it. So if you don't mind, the fintech startup that you have, what does it entail? What is it about?
Yeah, sure. So with my co-founder, we're still early stage, but we're looking at kind of the wealth management, financial planning space, but kind of trying to build a tool to help people make better decisions. Just because a lot of people are confused as to what decisions they should be making, how do they make the decision? Should I buy or rent a house? Should I lease my car, or should I buy it? Should I invest in that thing, or should I actually? How do I diversify? What should be my portfolio allocation? So I'm looking at that space because fintech is quite wide. So,
yes,
it's technically it's just technology applied to financial services, but I look at it as more like innovation in finance. So I look at everything, the intersection of like business, technology, like economics, like you have a bit of social dimension to it. So there are like many aspects to it, and that's what I quite like. It's it's a mess, and I like that mess.
It's interesting that you describe it as the wonderful mess that it is. The technology that's been available to the consumer has been extremely limited. So are you looking at it from the standpoint of creating like an app or a platform or?
Yeah, I'm looking. So yeah, the space we're looking is to try to build a simple tool. So either people don't do anything about financial planning more generally, so just
Oh,
yeah, fine, I have money here, I have money there, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll be able to retire or not, kind of, yeah. And or you have the nuts like me with Excel, like very complicated Excels, and with all your life is there in there, and you have like very crazy formulas. So yeah, the idea is to build a platform, app, whatever, but something simple that people can understand without jargon and lots of numbers and tables. Like no one wants that. No one wants to, you come back from work, you don't want to turn on Excel. Well, except me, I love it, but most people don't want to do it. In their free time, they don't want to be
You're
on Excel.
passionate about it, so it's understandable. It's all good. When you left, you said you left England and you went to Barcelona, Spain. Why Spain?
So I had a good time in London. It's a great place, but the weather is shit, and I was like, I need a better environment, better lifestyle. These days you can work from about anywhere, but I also wanted a city that is quite dynamic and a good business environment. So I looked at a few cities around in Europe where I could go, and in the end I chose Barcelona because it has a good mix of stuff, of business, beach, nice weather. So I thought, you know what, it sounds like a good mix to me.
That's interesting because you don't always hear business in Barcelona as synonymous, but it sounds like it's got a good epicenter of sorts for that, and still be able to live an enjoyable life. Is that about accurate?
Yeah. So basically, in Spain, the business life, like the business centers, is quite split between Madrid and Barcelona, or like Catalonia. So it's quite dynamic. But it's been for a while that here you have lots of entrepreneurs. So quite naturally over the past few years, like 20 years, lots of startups have come out of Barcelona, and more are coming out. So yeah, it's known, especially from the US, it's known as being like it's on the list when you do like a European trip. You need to go to Barcelona. Oh, yeah. There will be like sangria as a beach and tapas and quite good stuff. But actually, besides that, it's a good business environment. It's one of the top cities to do business in Europe. So it's quite dynamic.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. Obviously, it's a bucket list for me to get out there. The big thing for us in the States is usually culture, and like you said, some of the other fun tourist things that you can do. But nobody ever thinks about, well, what kind of business is done in Barcelona. We're usually thinking London, or we're thinking somewhere in Germany or something of that nature, and everything else is just culture and fun. So shows you how sometimes we're disconnected from reality. But it's interesting to hear. What are some of the big challenges that you're tackling right now as a consultant for fintechs? Like you said, you're a consultant to startups in that realm. What are some of the things that you're seeing, and what are some of the things that you're helping with?
Yeah, so actually, I mean, my journey as a consultant it started a few years ago. I started mentoring entrepreneurs, and which led me last year to becoming like a consultant. Is that a lot of things that were logical to me were not logical to many people, because I was working corporate strategy, so I was all about planning stuff and like very coherent business plan and all the parts that work together and managing big projects and stuff. So basically what I do is I'm trying to solve like issues. So I like to work with early stage companies that have a good idea, and sometimes some bits are missing. So they're not really sure how to get to their market. They're not really sure how to talk to their customers. Not really, sure exactly what their product should be doing. How to convince investors to bring money into the company. So it's kind of usually like solving little issues that they might have within their overall business plan. So yeah, that's what I like to do because you have lots of people passionate about doing something in fintech and other industries, and it's just sometimes it's the execution. It's not the idea, because at the end of the day, you can have a great idea. What matters is execution, and where I help is on that. Is like, okay, let's execute this idea really well, and let's take all the steps. So you're going to do this, do that. These are your customers. This is what they want, and go like very logical. And at the end of the day, strategy is it's not rocket science. It's a very organized process, and you have all your parts, and you look at all the parts, and you try to make them work together really well, and then you execute on all these bits. But you need to do this homework first of figuring out how it's all going to work. So yeah, so that's what I tend to do with companies.
When you get into early stage, what's the biggest one that you see is consistently missing? And I think I have a feeling I know one of them. I probably don't know them all, but especially in fintech, there's a lot of, like you said, there are systems that need to be in place. But what's some of the biggest holes you've noticed on early stage fintechs when they're just starting to plan?
I think it's really looking at the market. So your classic product market fit is that they want to build a product, but they haven't looked really what the market is and if there is a market for their product. And I've seen it times and times. For me, the first thing you need to do is look at your market, and so do your proper market research and see what your customers want, what are their pain points, what you're actually solving for. This is the biggest thing I've seen, is that sure, I mean, you can build anything and everything, but it doesn't mean that people are going to use it. Or they're going to use it, but are you sure they want to pay for it? Because this is step 2. And okay, if they pay for it, are you sure you're getting enough customers that this is big idea? And this is what investors look at. It's like, okay, how big is your market? And I feel a lot of people are skipping to this and try to build something as fast as they can. And then they get to the point where, okay, we have this, we have users, maybe have a bit of traction. Oh yeah, we have hundreds of people on it and they're using it, sure. But then to the point where, okay, are they paying for it? What's the value in your business? And this is where usually, it's the classic after 2-3 years where most businesses have died, that because it's easy to start a business. What's hard is getting to that point where actually you start to get recurring revenues and these revenues are growing and people love your product and blah, 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 and good to that point. So that's, for me, this is where most of the problems lie.
Yeah, market and business intelligence are, and we still see that today in all of the startups, entrepreneurs. I mean, I know of a couple of early stage apps that are in production, great ideas. I'm not quite sure that they've done enough market research, because as cool as the idea is, the idea may still be either ahead of its time or just the market may not be ready for it just yet. And it depends. I mean, if you've done a market assessment, as an example, got a friend who came up with an emergency app for seniors. Great idea. Competitor to a very well-known brand out here in the States called Bipolar. Theirs is just a little thing and a speaker in a house. This one would actually go with the senior wherever they went on their phone. And it was a wonderful idea. Something happened where I think it was the pandemic started. really hurt the ability for them to move forward with anything, including putting the app out there. When everything settled down and things started opening up slowly again, one of the partners actually went out and paid a research firm, and he paid them quite well to go out to the market and go see if this was still something that the market would want. They came back and said no. Huge bummer. I mean, 5 figures just to go get all that research done, to come back and say, yeah, the mid six that you guys dumped into this, sorry. Took their advice, did not move forward with it. But the idea, again, what you're saying is if you don't really know who wants it, yeah, sure, you might get a nice little start. Heck, you might even get an injection of funds, but that does not mean that it's going to be sustainable. And we still see a lot of that today too. So when you get involved with projects, what are some of the things that you look for as far as the promise of a project becoming successful?
Yeah, I mean, I believe, it's a two-way process. Is that, I evaluate if I want to work with the people, then, so yeah, I mean, I look for, it's going to sound dumb, but for competent people, is it kind of, I believe they know what they're doing, right?
It is not dumb at all, let me tell you. You and I have both come across the ones where you just sit there and shake your head going, yeah, this one's not going anywhere.
So yeah, just not to waste my time. So I'm just trying to find people that I believe they can execute on their idea. It doesn't mean that they need to have done it before. It's just, you look at people and you're like, okay, fine. Like, I mean, I believe your story and I think you can execute and whatever. And then also, I mean, over time, you see if you can work with the people, if they answer emails or they take your calls, or if they play dead, or you ask them for information and they're like, or then this is how you see over time also, like, okay, let's cut short here. Like, we can't work together. So then, passionate about what they're trying to do, kind of have a good vision, so have a vision of what they want to do. They're quite clear-ish about how it's going to work, but they know what they want to do. And then I'm there to help them execute on the vision, but they need this vision. I can't come in and say, no, I mean, you should go in that direction, or you should do this, you should do that. It's not for me to do, right? Is that this is for my startup? Yeah, I decide where it's going. Fine. If it's your business, you decide where it's going. I'm not here to tell you, I'm not going to take your hand and take you there. I'm just here to help you, so to advise you on the right direction. Yes, I guess it's a mix of things. I look for, it's a bit like when you try to hire someone, I look a bit for hard skills and soft skills. That I look for people that know what they're doing, they have the right background, and then and they're nice to work with. They're not assholes. That's kind of the basic stuff. And I haven't been a consultant for a long time, but I've been through, like, some people have been like, guys, it's been 15 minutes. That was nice to talk to you. We're gonna stop here. So it happens, and you need to be strong enough, actually, as an independent consultant, to say no to business. But I think you need to do it. And when I started, I was like, oh, I'll take everything and anything. But then we started like, well, no, actually, the whole point of being independent is that you don't have to deal with the people that you don't want to deal with.
Absolutely. You ring a common theme amongst investors that I know. In fact, I've had a couple on here, and they basically covered the same thing that you just did. Investors invest in people. That's their biggest thing. Are the people good enough for it? Are they, and the word competent did come up. Are they competent? Can they execute, like you just said? And are they really committed? Are they passionate about what this deal is? Because they might be clueless about what needs to happen, but if they're like fucking committed to it, and the investor goes, go do this, and it gets done within the next day or so, because they go out and they just figure out how to get it done, that's the kind of hustle that an investor wants to see. I would assume you're kind of saying the same thing. Now, of course, you're not the investor, but as a consultant, because I've done consulting for marketing too, I'm the same way. Is your brand something that you're committed to? Are you so committed that you're unwilling to pivot if necessary? But are you committed to your brand? Are you committed to your market? If you're really looking at making this work, then I can probably help you, and that either with suggestions, direction, or tools, just whatever it takes. This is an interesting little story. Guys, we're going to take a short 30-second break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about what motivates you. We kind of talked about it a little bit with Tristan, but we're going to go digging a little bit. So we'll be back in 30 seconds. Hey guys, welcome back to Java Chat Coffee with Mike, sitting here with Tristan Pelloux, and it's interesting, a Frenchman in Spain. That's almost indicative of the old Three Musketeers story, but I digress. Anyway, you know what? It's interesting. Second section, we always talk about what inspires and what motivates. I mean, obviously you're an analytical, you love numbers, you love Excel sheets. That's cool as shit. If you ask me, I wish I had the passion for that. I don't. But I love guys that do, because you guys can sit there and stare at numbers and pick out like the most minuscule of things and go, oh, here, let's tweak this. And all of a sudden shit explodes. And you just look at it and go, on a number? Are you kidding? I mean, this has got to be the fun stuff for you. What's that like? I mean, like when you sit down and you look at something, and all of a sudden you can see the potential in just a couple things moving. What does that do for you?
Yeah, I guess it didn't happen overnight. So I studied, as I said, I did a master's degree in business. I majored in finance and I studied economics. So I was in numbers, before starting to work. So, and then my first, so I did cross-border mergers and acquisitions. So very much all about numbers and playing around with numbers. And what you learn is that you can do whatever you want with numbers. That's the beauty of it, right? Is that you change a little assumption here, you change the rate here, blah blah blah, hopla, and suddenly you have what you want, what you wanted. And that you learn over time that actually you can do whatever you want. But no, and then my first full-time job, I was financial analyst, and I was spending my time in balance sheet and profit and loss, and basically, was to analyze the competition. Was like, okay, the annual report is here. Okay, find the little stuff within it. So you dig a bit into the numbers and try to find what adjustments have been made, what is this little footnote, and so it's an investigation into the numbers, and it's quite fun in the end when you know what to look for, and you know what this number means, or when this company says, oh, we've done this, and you're like, that means that this is that, and this is bullshit or whatever. So it's quite interesting to develop this ability to tell like the truth from stuff that have been made up. It's quite, I know, some people are not into numbers, some are really into numbers, some are like, okay, I like numbers but not so much, but yeah, I take good fun with it.
I'm the guy that says I have to look at it because I have to look at it. I need to know what I need to know. I'd rather not, because that's not really my bag, but I love the guys that do, because they can help me figure out what's good and what's not, where I should be putting the investments and where I shouldn't be putting the investments. And it's like, it becomes exciting for me when somebody like yourself sits there and goes, hey, look at this, click, click, click. And all of a sudden the numbers at the end go up, and I go, what the hell did you just do? And then you guys explain it, and I'm like, shit, that's all? I'm like, okay, cool. Hang on a second. Because it's like, seeing the passion in somebody who loves numbers like yourself. And I heard what you said. It didn't happen overnight. And I have a question about that too in a second. But seeing the passion come out of somebody that goes, hey, did you know that if we did this, it's almost like we're talking as an investor to an entrepreneur. Hey, what if you could blank? And the investor looks up and goes, holy shit, never thought about that. Do you think there's a market for it? One of the main questions we always ask, right? Is there a market for it? Do you think people will actually buy it? You got any numbers to back that up? That's when I see guys like yourself start getting excited. Just little tweaks, little things here and there, and they're huge. They're a huge effect on things. And it's not always about numbers either. Sometimes it's just about market penetration. Sometimes it's just about, affecting a market, period. But to see the excitement on people's faces in that realm, it's pretty exciting to me. I thought that was pretty cool. To go back to that question though, you said it didn't happen overnight. Have you always been in and around interested in numbers? I mean, before you even went for your master's, I mean, were you just a numbers kid? Did you just enjoy doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, you're always influenced by your parents, but my dad was really into finance and stock market and investing and stuff. So I grew up with him just talking numbers, and he's very fast with numbers, much faster than me. Mental calculation, kind of. Oh yeah. So when we were kids, he would tell us, okay, what is 233 times 17, and this kind of stuff, and see we're 5 kids, so see which one is answering the fastest. So I grew up kind of fond of numbers, and then from the teenage years I was like, okay, I want to work in finance, and I was like, I had this image I would be on Wall Street with walking around to the office and with my coffee from Starbucks and about to go into the office, and I'm a trader or whatever. So that was what I thought I would do. So that's why I studied to go to business school to study finance. I thought I would be a trader. That was my plan for a long time. Then I realized, actually the job is it's interesting, but it's not what I do. I prefer corporate finance, and then I went more into corporate finance. But yeah, I grew up seeing I would work in finance. I guess part the influence of my dad, and then all the movies that kind of glorify what it is to work in finance, and then reality is that you do work long hours, you earn a lot, but you sacrifice everything and anything. And I was like, okay. But some people, I mean, because obviously since I went to business school, a lot of people I know went into investment banking. It's good. It's a choice, and it's not a choice I wanted to make, but some people love it.
What are some of the movies you mentioned? Movies, and I knew there's always it's inevitable. I always talk to somebody. There's books, movies, and stuff like. What's some of the movies that you saw that kind of pushed that vision for you?
Well, obviously Wall Street, the original one.
Wait, the original.
Then,
who are the main stars in that one? The original Wall Street was who?
Was Charlie Sheen,
Okay.
Michael Douglas.
Yeah.
So, and then more recent movies are quite good. Margin Call.
I haven't seen that one. Is that really good?
Margin Call is really good. Yeah, okay. I say it's one of my favorite. It's top. Wolf of Wall Street is fun, but I wouldn't put it in my top movies.
Jordan's an interesting character. Let's leave it at that. He's a straight wolf. He really did what he did. I'm pretty sure you've seen some of it, but his is more in the sales side of investing, not so much planning, like what you're dealing with. You're more on the side of figuring out how to balance out a portfolio. His was how much money can we make, and he did really well. He really did.
The Big Short is also an amazing movie.
Ah, yes, that's right. Short.
It's more it's where finance meets economics, and very good.
Don't mind me, I'm just taking notes. Finance meets economics. I forgot about that one, The Big Short. Definitely one that I've been meaning to watch. I'll just get on Netflix or something and go catch it, because that I've heard good reviews about that one. Any books, anything that you've ever read that as far as corporate strategy? Because this is one of the things, like I have, and I don't know where I put the book, but there's a book out here, Understanding. And of course, right when I decided to think of the title, I can't remember it. It'll be in the description, but Understanding Corporate Strategy, because there is a guy out here. He's known as the father of corporate strategy. So I'm just wondering if you've got any books or anything around that, or is it more on investing? Or
yeah, so there is Competitive Strategy from Michael Porter.
There you go. I have the other one that says Understanding Porter. Yeah, that's him.
Yeah, so Michael Porter has wrote and then there is a good one from Harvard Business Review. It's like 10 must reads on strategy, which I really like, because you have one within it from Michael Porter, but it's also like different bits about like different parts of strategy. So it's quite good to get an overview. It goes from performance management to like more high level stuff. So these are two books I would recommend. And then I mean you have tons, but I do spend much more time trying to read. So a bit like the 10 must read is trying to read like smaller pieces. Articles from McKinsey, they put out a lot of stuff that are quite helpful, or from INSEAD, or Wharton is doing lots of stuff on strategy. So like longer articles that can be useful to understand some bits. So I spend much more time reading these than just actually reading a book.
That's awesome. Yeah, we have there's a service, there's a couple of services now. They have those new ones where you can subscribe, and they basically give you the highlight points of a book in 15 minutes, 12, 15 minutes. You just listen to them, and they give you all of the main points of the book, kind of giving you the gold nuggets instead of you having to sit and read. Because with everything as busy as it's gotten, it's kind of hard to sit down and actually read a book these days. You mentioned a little earlier, it takes a lot of time to get through work. As entrepreneurs know this quite well. People that are in consulting know this quite well. We're constantly on the move. If we want to stay up with the market, we're constantly having to watch what's current, and at the same time be trying to read books. It's a little challenging. So it's nice that these new people have come up with these apps that can basically summarize the books and give you the knowledge, at least the main bullet points. It's good. Awesome. Who are some of the people? Obviously, Michael Porter is definitely a good one. Who are some of the people that you think are the most influential in fintech that you kind of look up
to? Who do I look to in fintech? Obviously, keep an eye on the guys the guys that lead big fintechs. So if you look at the Robinhood co-founders or PayPal, or so I kind of look at the leaders, but not. I mean, sometimes or the CEO of Revolut, like the new bank out of London. So I look at them not, oh, I want to be like them, but more trying to see how they're taking their business. So they're obviously quite influential, and then you have lots of influencers and people that talk and write a lot. But yeah, I don't know. Like I follow a lot of people. I try to take different point of views, try to see what's what, to see how. I mean, for me, for instance, Robinhood, it's quite interesting because the premise, guys, we're going to democratize finance, democratize investing. This is like the vision, but then like the business model is not aligned to that, because what you want is people to trade a lot, because you need flow to then get paid. So I'm like, okay, well, it's interesting because you seem to have a vision, but then your execution is quite biased, and it's not, what you're doing is not in the best interest of the users or the customers, because this is not what they should be doing. They should buy an ETF on the S&P 500 and sit on it for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be like trading options 5 times a day. And so I'm quite interested in looking at that kind of stuff. So the gaps between, I'm a leader, but you're not doing the right thing as a leader. You should go in a different direction. So that's the long thing to say. I look up to some people, but sometimes it's not it's not like to praise them, but more to say like, look at this more on what it's doing. I think it's completely wrong.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Observing to see what their actions are, like as the Robinhood example. Interestingly enough, I was actually in the midst of that debacle that happened. What they say and what they do, two different things. What they should have been doing was educating, and they did a very poor job of that. Especially like when you mentioned, people that are beginning investors playing around in options. I'm approved for options. I'm not an experienced trader in options, nor do I do it. I just did it to see if I could get in, and I did, and I went, okay, this is going to be a problem, because if somebody like me that's really not an options trader, I'm not an experienced options trader, I'm not a part of any of the gurus programs on options. If I'm being allowed in to do this, who else is being allowed in to do this and isn't smart enough to know better, to not go play someplace you don't belong? That's a serious recipe for disaster. And this is outside of all the stuff that happened with them with GameStop and all that other shit that went down. They were supposed to be this independent platform, and nobody understands there's no such thing as an independent platform per se, because you still have clearinghouses to deal with. And guess what they're going to do? They're going to influence the deal. No matter how you look at it, there's always somebody else involved. So it's nice you want to democratize trading, but you got some holes. So yeah, I get it. It's kind of seeing where the leaders are playing and what they're doing, catching the bullshit when you see it, obviously. Cool. What do you think would be a good place for somebody who's interested in fintech? Aside of the books and some of the things that you've mentioned, where do you think is a good place for people to start observing? Like, and we'll get into the next section too. If you've got a blog, I think you do. But what are some things that people can start observing to see what's really going on?
Yeah, so I mean, there are lots of resources out there. As you were saying, there's Fintech Review, which is my blog, and it's awesome. So I try to take everybody on board, basically, because I'm quite passionate about it, and I want people to understand what it is. But besides that, when you want to understand a concept, Investopedia is probably the best place ever, because it dissects every single thing in finance. And yeah, I mean, that and following a few people on Twitter or LinkedIn that will share things, and so you can with time understand what's going on. You have so many news platforms and blogs and stuff about it. But yeah, you need to start from the beginning. Try to understand what it is, like try to understand the main concept to build your base. So what is fintech? What is trading? Like trying to understand like the overall concept, and then try to connect the dots. What I was saying about
You
Robinhood.
make a really good point there. People should probably understand finance first. There's a lot of people that go into fintech and they're still blind as to what the hell it does, even though they might understand the fintech part of it, but they still have no base on what investing is or what finance is. You kind of mentioned.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, fintech without finance is just tech, right? It's not fintech. And yeah, trying to understand, connect the dots. Yeah, Robinhood, it's free. Cool. Something is free, it means yours a product, right? It's like nothing is free in life. So trying to understand what it means, what a business model, where they're making their money, why they do that. So yeah, I mean, I encourage people to try to scratch the surface without going into conspiracy theories, but the Fed printing money or whatever, which happens a lot on Twitter as well. But without going into that direction, there's still a lot of homework you can do and investigation to try to understand how things work. But yeah, definitely you need to understand how finance works, how economics work. Yeah, because you see a lot of stuff being said about crypto by people that obviously don't understand how the economy works, or how the economy, like the currency is linked to the financial system, how it's all like a stability, and how all these things work, and how it's tied to politics. And there's people overlook that, and I'm like, yeah, sure, man, but do you think the guy in the White House and the guys in all the White Houses everywhere gonna let you do that or let you do this? Yeah, sure, power to the people. Yeah. So yeah, being curious, but also trying to understand the big picture, but yeah, all the elements. So trying to understand what technology does, what the finance, how the finance works, how the economics work, and then business, tying up everything. Why people launch this business? Why do you think it's going to succeed or not? Yeah.
It all matters. It all absolutely matters. That's great stuff, man. Hey guys, we're going to take one more short 30-second break. When we come back, we're going to talk about what's next for Tristan. So we'll be back in 30. And we're back here, Java Chat, hanging out with Tristan Pelloux, and this is Mike, Coffee with Mike. Almost said my whole name. Jeez. It gets monotonous after a while, and you just kind of want to say, "It's me." So, last section, we get to talk about what Tristan's up to. He mentioned something a little earlier, the Financial Review. That's your blog, correct?
Yeah, Fintech Review. Fintech Review is my blog.
Fintech Review. Let's make sure I get that right. Tell us about it, buddy. What's going on there?
Yeah, sure. So after a while, like when I was working on Virgin Money, and everybody was calling me Mr. Fintech and asking me for stuff, and I started
love
writing.
When that kind of stuff happens, right? I mean, when people just start coming to you and you just all of a sudden you're the guy.
Yeah. So I started writing short updates for some people, and then writing updates for the whole company. And then I was like, you know what? Why am I not writing stuff for the whole world? So started my blog, and it evolved into being a bit more than just me rambling about fintech. And I started interviewing people and guest posts and stuff. So it's been good so far. Just past like 11,000 views since last year, so since January last year, all of which, like, I think 9,000 since January this year, as I got more into it and more time dedicated to it. And so yeah, I mean, what I do is that in addition to that, I have a weekly update where people can subscribe, and then they will receive a short weekly update about me rambling about what's going on, what's happening in fintech, what's going on in crypto, why this thing is bullshit, why this thing is great. So yeah, that's what I do with Fintech Review. I from the beginning I was like, you know what, this is going to be opinionated, I'm not doing neutral stuff. If something is good, I'll tell it. If something is not good, I will say it. And yeah, I think some people are looking for that. Some don't, but it doesn't matter. So it's a great, well, I'm biased, but I think it's a great source if you want to learn more about fintech. So yeah, definitely welcome more people, and also suggestions and people say, oh, I don't understand this, and can you explain what this is? And this I love as well. Yeah, people
Awesome.
curious about, well, you said this, why are you saying this? This doesn't make sense. And I'm like, yeah, sure, it does make a bit of sense.
It's interesting. So you're basically you're putting out, it's kind of an opinion blog, although it's backed by actual numbers most likely. Knowing your analytics state, it's probably backed by actual facts, but it's kind of an opinion blog is what I'm hearing. Is that kind of correct?
Yeah, it's opinion blog, but yeah, I'm basing my analysis on some actual facts. So
yeah.
I'm not gonna say, oh, this thing is crap because I don't believe in it. No, I will say this is that because I'm taking different facts, and obviously, as I was saying, you can do whatever you want with numbers, but
Sure.
There is some kind of logic to everything.
There is a logical flow, and if you know how to read the numbers, you can eventually tell where the reality is. That's really what it comes down to. You're right. Do you got anything else in the works besides the blog? Are you going to be speaking anywhere? You got any books on the way? I can swear there's a book in you somewhere, buddy.
So, as I said, I'm also working on my own fintech startup. So it's still early days, but we'll make some wave in the financial planning. It's not really financial planning. It's more like financial decisions. So helping you make better financial decisions. So working on this, it's been a few months, and it will eventually come to life in the next 2-3 months. So yeah, watch this space. It's going to be big.
You will need to let us know when it launches so that we can go ahead and promote it and tell everybody about it, because that's definitely something that we like to help with our guests, especially when they're coming out with a new product like what you're doing. It's worth sharing. Whether somebody uses it or not is a different story, but the idea is that the more people know, the more choices they have. And that can also be an overwhelm. But in the case of what we're doing here, you're bringing something to the table that will help quell or alleviate the overwhelm, because you're helping them to see and make better decisions. So please let us know when that launches, so that we can help get the word out.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, as I said, I'm when I look at leaders and what they do, and what they say they do and actually they don't do, quite driven by, for me, fintech was all about trying to do financial services better and finance better, so people make better decisions, and they do, it improves their lives. So if this is not what I'm building, then what the point?
Yeah.
I mean, I need to be excited about changing people's life for the better. Of course, I mean, it's not going to be a charity, and I'm going to deliver a good service and getting paid for it, and that's great. Everybody wins. But I'm not here at building a business where the whole point is to screw people and take all their money and then run away with it, charge them exuberant fees or whatever. Like, come on, like, do you sleep at night? I mean, I don't want to do that. So yeah, I'll tell you when it's up and running.
That'll be awesome. Definitely want to check that app out when it comes out. Guys, we've reached the end of our time. And Tristan, I wanted to say thank you once again for coming and sharing some of your insights, your expertise, and hanging out on Java Chat. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a good chat. Good coffee with you, Mike.
Yeah, it was a good chat. It's one of the better chats, actually. Thanks so much. Guys, if you're watching, again, don't forget, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell next to it, because that tells you when we get another good guest like this come on board and hang out with us here at Java Chat. If you're listening to us on any of our, 12 or 13 platforms now, make sure you subscribe or you download from that favorite platform. If you're listening to us on anchor.fm, that's our home base. We could always use some support there too. Happy to share with you guys what we have. If you have any suggestions as far as guests are concerned, please hit us up, javachatpodcast.com. Send us a little note, and we'll be happy to reach out and see if we can get that person on board. We love sharing these stories, origin stories and inspirations and things of that nature, and to help you guys get some golden nuggets on what you should be thinking about as entrepreneurs, as C-level executives, business professionals, blue-collar workers. All of this matters, and it all applies. It doesn't matter. There's always something good for every one of you. By the way, if you're listening to this, you've probably got a friend or two that could dig into what Tristan shared today. They could probably get some benefit out of it. So share it with them. Send it to them. Send them an email. Send them a share. Make sure that everybody that should hear it gets a shot at it. All right. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to us. Remember, stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. For Tristan Pelloux and myself, Coffee with Mike. Ciao for now.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.